Meet the Parents is about filling an information gap between, on the one hand, slick secondary school open days and, on the other, age-old rumours and gossip that can swirl around primary school playgrounds. It's not about league tables or Ofsted reports, but about hearing from families themselves who are at the local secondary schools and getting the very latest information on what they're really like.
On my doorstep are two brilliant state schools which have just as happy and wonderfully achieving children as someone who goes to a private school. I do have experience of fee-paying schools because my partner works at one, but we chose a state school, our local state school, because it just felt right.
If your kid is happy at the school, then they will do well. And also, this is not your only choice. If they're not happy and they're not doing well, then there is the option of moving around. And as I say, we've got really good choices.
I chose Akron Burley because when I first went to the open evening, it was a really welcoming school, and part of the reason I also went is because it's boys and girls and quite a lot of my friends from Camden were boys.
I visited all of the schools that I could have gone to. I also enjoy having a mixed school because I'd done that for 6 years.
The only thing I would change about Parley is that the food's quite not really nice. Like, I had to eat halal food, and there's no halal options except for vegetarian, and I don't like vegetables.
I found it really useful, really informative. Getting the views of from the children and the parents is a much more rounder information than getting it from the schools.
It's already influenced my decision because it's exposed me to schools that I might not have thought of, and sort of challenged my assumptions. I've been now 2 years running, and I'll come again next year before I make the final decision. So I'm really finding it invaluable as a source of research and a sort of more rounded perspective.
Meet the Parents is unique to North London. It started at Yearbury Primary School in Islington back in 2012. Many of the parents who attended events there have gone on to send their children to the local comprehensives and are now coming back as panellists at events across Camden, Islington and beyond.
Meet the Parents was a really, really helpful, useful thing for us when we made our decision because it gave us honest information. It gave us the chance to talk to parents, as the name suggests, and also particularly to talk to their children, the students at the school. And it made us realise that it wasn't a risk, or it wasn't dangerous, or it wasn't something kind of edgy to send our children to our local state school. It was a normal thing to do, and that we would be fine, and she would be fine, and she is fine, and she's having a brilliant time, and she's having a fantastic education. And I think actually in her year, over half the girls, or nearly half the girls, ended up going to a local state school. And I think, I'm not sure of the figures, but I'm pretty sure that was more than there had been for years and years and years. So I'm sure that Meet the Parents had a really big influence on lots of us, because lots of us went to those meetings, and I think they were kind of a comfort as well, that even if though some of us might have already made our decision, it was a sort of thing of thinking, oh, well, all these people think it's okay, so it must be okay.
It's quite interesting as an education writer and observer, and as a parent, to observe how many young people who are sent to so-called better schools end up at the same universities. But actually that's not so surprising, because when you look at the research, it shows that once you factor in social and economic elements, that children can do as well, if not better, at a local state school than they can at a selective or even a private school.
Most of the schools represented at Meet the Parents events are in Camden. Nationally, the area stands out because all its schools are non-selective and community-based, instead of being in a chain of schools. Together, they're part of a pioneering partnership, Camden Learning, which encourages schools to work together to share expertise.
You've got secondary schools working with primary schools, working with special schools across a system, which, believe me, just doesn't happen in other places, working together against common causes, which I think is most refreshing. There's an energy as well in Camden, which you don't see everywhere else, where that passion is still alive, and that really is something that I think makes the system thrive.
Hand in hand with this cooperation comes diversity. Meet the Parents operates in an area of huge cultural contrasts. Its secondary schools are microcosms of that richness.
If you only ever meet people that think the same things you do, that have the same background that you do, I think it's incredibly stifling to your personal growth. And that's what I love about this school and Camden. You have such a diverse group of children here. You look around the playground and you see these children walking around hand in hand, playing together. And that's what you want Britain to be.
The guiding philosophy of Meet the Parents is that comprehensives work best when they are truly comprehensive, and communities can only benefit too.